Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. I'm Dr. Kendra Albright, and I'm here to talk with three of our graduates from our Master of Science in Knowledge Management program. And we are very fortunate to have with us today Jessica DeMay, wave,
Hello.
Don Sedor, and John Antill. And we're going to have three questions and they're going to talk about their answers one question at a time. So when you're watching the video, we may split this into three segments for each question. We may do something different, but we're going to see how this goes. So I'm delighted to have you guys join us. And the first question I'd like to have you answer is to just give us an introduction, a brief biography of your background, how you got into KM, what are you doing, what's your job, and just a little bit about yourself, okay? And I'm just going to call your name one at a time. And so I'm going to go right across the screen. And Jessica, you're first. So if you would go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Sure. So, as Kendra mentioned, I'm Jessica DeMay. Um, my background is actually probably a little bumpy, but very similar to a lot of people in the KM realm. I have an undergraduate degree in child and family studies from Ohio University. I graduated in 2008, so it's been a while since then. And um, background just with psychology and understanding the human form. I then had children and raised them for several years, but got back into the business world by working in a library. And so that got me into wanting to work with people in a way, but the elementary school just wasn't for me. So I have a mentor that already worked in KM, and she kind of introduced me to what KM is. And I honestly didn't realize there was a field of making things more efficient and providing information to, the person that needs it. Like to me, that was common sense and in a very efficient thing, but I didn't realize that there was a field specifically for that. So by doing my research, I'm like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. This is exactly where I'd like to be. So I was able to land a position at an organization that kind of helped take off their knowledge management program and was an author there, managing the content at an HR and payroll company. It was a great start, but the company itself wasn't a fit for me. So I ended up moving to where I am today, actually. So I've been here at eGain Knowledge Management Platform for about 4 years. I am actually a solution consultant. What that means is I work with organizations that have a need, specifically in knowledge management in their contact center, and kind of show them how knowledge management, why it's so important, how it makes their organization very efficient, and just improves the customer and employee experience. And with that, I realized that there was a gap in my understanding of the overall philosophy of KM. So that's when I kind of reached out and looked at the education background or potential there. I landed on Kent State, being from Ohio. That was a really exciting thing. I didn't realize that there was a master's degree program and something that I was very passionate about. So it worked out very well. So I did that. I felt there was still a little bit of a gap when it came to implementing and actually rolling out a KM system. So I also just recently actually graduated with a certification from KMI in knowledge management as well, which again, between the two organizations, it really, I feel now solid in my abilities as a knowledge manager.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you, Jessica. That's very interesting. And I hope you'll share a little bit more with us about the KMI certification. John, I believe you have a KMI certification as well.
Yes, I have the Master in Certified Knowledge Management, several knowledge specialists, and the Certified Knowledge Management.
Great. All right. Dawn, do you have the KM Institute?
I don't have that. Well, I picked up a couple of certifications from APQC, but nothing from KMI. So I'm interested to explore that a little further.
All right. Well, very good. And we'll be interested to hear about the APQC experience as well. So that's great. And now we're going to ask Dawn. You go ahead and give us an introduction about yourself.
Sure. So thanks for having me here today. It's such a pleasure to see you again and to meet the rest of you. So I am Dawn Sedor. I started my knowledge management journey at Kent State in 2017, I think. But what that really grew out of was a background in corporate intelligence. I really enjoyed the research aspect and kind of doing that analysis, but I left the profession. I was at home for a few years, and during that time, I was working with a lot of different nonprofit organizations. And I was in a casual conversation with someone who started telling me about knowledge management. This was probably 2005 or six or something, and it was a newer discipline then. And I was fascinated because it was something I was already doing organically within the organizations that I worked for, just connecting people with people and connecting people to resources. And I had a lot of passion around that. So I was really excited. And I knew immediately that this was what I wanted to spend my time doing. So like Jessica, I'd taken some time to raise my children. But when it was time to return to school, I was so pleased to find out that Kent State offered this degree and it's right in my backyard. So I was very pleased to be able to go there and work with Dr. Albright and so many amazing people there. Through Kent State, I was able to get an internship. I always say I won the internship lottery, and I truly did. It was a thrilling experience with an international aerospace company where I got to design an enterprise wiki from the ground up, and it was fascinating. I so enjoyed that. And then I took those skills and was hired on at NASA, where I worked as a science librarian, but very heavily involved in their knowledge management initiatives. And then from there, just about 9 months ago, moved to Deloitte, which was a long-term dream job for me. So at Deloitte, I work as a global knowledge manager. I wear a lot of different hats in that regard. And I look forward to sharing a little bit more about that with you, maybe a little later in the call.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Dawn. That's wonderful. John, let's hear from you. It's been a while since I've talked to you.
So my knowledge management experience starts back a little bit further. It starts in '98 when I was a firefighter. And in firefighting, we learn from experts. So if you want to break into a house, the expert to go talk to, convict. So firefighters shared this knowledge. Didn't know what it was called. Fast forward to 2008, I already been out of the Marine Corps for 4 years, and I joined the Army as an officer. And I was sitting there, and this guy comes up and he says, "Hey, I've got this wonderful collaboration platform, and this is what it does for you." Come to find out, he was a professor at Kent State, and he said, "Hey, you're smart enough. You need to go in and do your master's program." So I completed my master's in a little bit of an unorthodox way. But I used the online version because I was in Georgia and doing a job and I finished that up at the Cyber COE, working for Joint Force Headquarters Cyber. My KM experience is a little bit different.
I muted myself, sorry. So thank you for that. And I think your military experience and now firefighting, I didn't realize that you had been a firefighter, is also a
Is she
very,
frozen for you guys too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if it was just me.
I'm frozen. Let me see, does that help?
Schoolhouse side. Then I did cyber, then I did human resources. Now I'm doing CDD stuff.
Interesting. Jessica, you sound like you've gotten around quite a bit too, actually.
I don't know. My background's not as cool as yours with NASA and Deloitte is actually a partner of eGain, so that's interesting to hear as well. So,
Oh, cool.
very cool. Yeah.
That is great. The connections are amazing, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys for that. That was really interesting. I'm sorry that my internet cut out for whatever reason. So anyway, we'll continue. It's still recording, so we'll just keep going. All right. Second question, and we'll reverse the order of the answerers this time. So John, starting with you, how well did you feel you were prepared for your current position? And what helped you prepare?
So I was not prepared for my current position because it was a different challenge. Every cam role you step into is going to be different. So you have to understand, be flexible and understand the organizational culture differences. And by that, the CBP was totally different than the U.S. Army because the Army's got books and binders for everything. And when I walked into the CBP as their knowledge management specialist, they don't have anything in writing other than the federal level. So coming in from working with the ISO standard and and using that to help identify the areas, that helped out. The courses at Kent State helped out because they exposed me to different people in different ways. The UXI course helped me understand that our intranets are not about what we do, they're about what we can do for our customer. Because if we want to talk about what we do, that's going to be on our public facing pages. So we need to design our intranets to what we can do for the organization. And it's just really interesting on each step. If you're CAM driven, you're going to doubt yourself 110%. But you're going to be there to answer the question or help them out, broker the knowledge as best as you can.
That's great. Thank you. And Dawn, what about you?
I feel my Kent experience actually prepared me very well for my career. So when I was in the program, it was in a bit of a state of flux. But honestly, I take that to my benefit because, as John pointed out, in a KM job, it's so vast and so wide, and there are so many different roles to play that I was able to pluck something from every course that I took, from user experience design, even some of the things I learned in a health informatics records class that I took, I've used. So yeah, I feel it's been really great. Particularly, I think the semantic technologies class was useful. The user experience design course was useful. The only gap that I found when I started practicing KM is that no one tells you that it's a sales job too. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And you are selling people to make an investment on a return that they don't immediately see. So maybe there's some fun courses around that now. But yeah, I've been so grateful and feel very well prepared, and feel that I've been able, because of the diverse experience that I had, to be able to add value almost immediately to every job that I've taken.
That's a very good point that you make about the valuation and how you convince other people and persuade them. We need to have a course on persuasion, I think. However, we do have the leadership course that helps us address the issues of soft skills, which is part of that, the communication of it. And then we have the course on metrics and valuation. And so that also helps at least understand, what's your return on investment? How do you tell the story, which is what I hear most of the time from knowledge managers, is that it's not the metrics, it's the stories that are the most effective at selling the ideas and how it can really benefit the bottom line, so to speak. So that's really great. Thank you, Dawn. That was really interesting. I'm glad to hear that, It's great. Thanks. Jessica, how about you?
So when I started the program, I was already at the position that I'm in. So I would say that I haven't changed positions since then. I feel that Kent State has definitely helped me better understand just the philosophy of knowledge management. But as John mentioned, it's a little bit different with each organization, and I have definitely grasped that. And I think that the courses that we took helped me understand that a little bit better, and then being able to relate that to the people that I am working with, right? So I understand, some of the different pain points that an organization may have when it comes to KM. ROI is always one of them, and getting the buy-in is certainly top of that list in every single opportunity or different prospect or customer that I talk to. But as I mentioned, when I first started Kent State, I know that Kendra has done a fabulous job of making the program the best it can be. And I'm a little bit sad that I graduated before some of those changes took effect. But I I felt there was a little bit of a gap in some of the things. That's why I mentioned I did go to KMI, and I felt that that helped build those. Regardless of KMI or Kent State, I do feel that the most powerful thing that I have gotten out of that is the connections that I have made through both programs. Just having a community to go to talk through issues that arise, while it's different in each organization, a lot, if I haven't dealt with it yet, I guarantee that there is a KM contact that I have that has gone through it and can walk me through. Maybe it might not be the right answer, it might not be the answer to my problem, but maybe they tried something and it didn't work, and they can share that as well. So it's just, an efficient, effective way of handling those. So that was, I think, the best part of the program for me.
I think that's really interesting. And, Stan Garfield, who's on our advisory board, he often says that, community management is one of the most important things that you can do, and making sure that you know who your contacts are, and you stay in touch, and that you manage your communities, which takes quite a bit of effort. And he would know, because he's the manager of the SIKM discussion list that has, I believe he said, 11,000 KM people on that list now, and it's international. And it's such a help because people post questions they don't know the answers to, and it's so well managed, and that network has played itself out for the program at Kent State. People know about us more than they used to. What I'm on my own role with is helping everyone in the United States know more about what KM is, because it's a growing field, and yet people don't know about it. And so we all are in this together, and we all need to work on that. And yes, I'm a constant salesperson. So yeah, that's great. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. I want to follow up on something that you guys said, is that this, I think it would be hard to address every single issue or trend that's happening in KM at any given moment in time, because it's fast changing. It's related to technology and the tools that come with that. It's related to people, working with people. It's really all about the people, and the technology is just there to help support. As I always remind our students to focus on the people, not the tools. The tools come and go, but the people remain the same. So the question I have is, what were the reasons that you pursued your KMI certificate and your APQC courses, Dawn? So let's go the opposite way now, and we'll start with Dawn to hear about the APQC courses.
Sure. I don't know. I think one thing that I found as a commonality across any KM practitioner is that you do have a thirst for ongoing education. So I think a lot of it is to get a deeper knowledge, but I think also there's just a natural tendency to want to continue learning and getting deeper. So I got a certification in knowledge mapping from APQC, and that was specific to the project that I was working on at NASA. So I had that opportunity, and it was really fascinating to sort of dive in, see if the different perspectives that were available in that course, the tools that they do use to do that, and the philosophy and methods behind it. So that was really helpful to me.
Wow, excellent. That's great. That's a great idea. So much is happening in that part of KM too. So that's great. Thank you. John, how about you? What did you get for the KMI certificate?
So I got the KMI certificate because the contracts that not the contract, but US Cybercom actually required it, which wasn't that bad because we were in our entity. But I stuck with it, and they have different courses that you can take, such as information architecture. You can, there's one about knowledge retention. And so I kept taking these specialty courses. And then I was talking to them, I was like, don't you guys mention you had a master of certified knowledge management? And they go, yeah, it's typically a year-long course. You have this project you build, and but with you, it's something different because you've already done high-level analytics on courses and stuff like that. So one of the programs I use that I created for the Army that now is Cybercom wide the Army, we were able to save them close to $16 billion in manpower money. So now cybercrime is a lot larger, but utilizing that tool, we were able to get my master's certified knowledge. And then I also have, there's more certificates out there. The KCS certificate, which is great. The ServiceNow certificate, which is another one, because they're for those applications and everything. And then the DoD has one.
So which one? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The DoD
DoD.
has one too. And they are awesome because they work with Kent State to get them what trends they're seeing there. So my advice is to go out and look for the certificates and jobs that are out there and then find which ones you can do.
Great, thank you. And Jessica, how about you? What did you feel that you got from KMI?
I have to piggyback off Dawn's comment of just having that thirst for continual learning. That's definitely, I've already looked at other certifications that are out there, even though I have KCS fundamentals and the KMI as well. When I was in the Kent State courses, I felt that it was very heavy with library and information sciences and not as much within the business realm. And while I understand that how those can relate, I felt like there was a little bit of something missing when it came to the business aspect, which is what I felt I needed in my job and any potential future jobs. So in looking at it, I think KMI is the most known knowledge management certifications, which is why I kind of went that route. KCS, I don't totally agree with the methodology, at least not in a contact center. So while I understand it, I don't necessarily agree with it. It kind of depends on, like it would be a great thing in NASA, but maybe not in a contact center. So, but anyways, I'll digress from that. I just felt like, again, I could use more knowledge, more community, and that's what that offered. I had talked to Kathleen, actually is a KMI graduate as well, and had let me know that she really enjoyed the courses. So that was another help from my community of suggestions.
Well, you will be pleased to know that we have overhauled it, and it is not as heavy LIS. It is more business, it's more professional. It still has the academic component. So, we still have theory, but it's in the context of a broader scope than it used to be. And also, you guys might be interested to know that we have just announced this year, it will launch in the fall, a dual degree in MBA/MS and KM with the business college. And so, yeah, that's happened. It's official, and we are so excited to be able to do that. And we do have several business courses that are in there. The leadership component of our program is comprised of 2 courses. One is with us in thought leadership in KM, and the other one is with the business school. It's in the management department that looks at, they have a lot of psychometric tests that you can take to really do introspective searching to understand yourself and your skill set. And then you can figure out how and what kinds of applications through our leadership class you can use to apply those skills in KM. Maybe you have more of an interest in building communities of practice and less interest in developing taxonomies. So maybe you have interest in the technologies. So finding that out through the business course, which has graduate students from across the university, there's from all departments, and I've heard great things about that. And then you can take that knowledge and then look at it more specifically under the microscope in the KM realm to see where you might want to develop skills that maybe you've identified that you want to get and how to do that. So that's what that course is about. So that's really,
Fantastic.
yeah, we've really done a lot of soul searching, so to speak. And the KM advisory board that we have is just world class. Yeah, so we've been really happy and lucky to have them with us as well. So they've been doing it for a long time. Yeah.
I
So
enjoyed that leadership course last summer. It was actually pretty good.
good, good,
I may
good.
need to go back to class.
Well, I was going to tell you, there's also, you can get a PhD. There's also a PhD. It would be an interdisciplinary degree in communications with a concentration in knowledge management. We have graduates from that. And if you have any desire to know more about that at some point in your career, let me know. I didn't go back for my PhD for a long time. And so, when I did, I wanted that interdisciplinary degree for all the same reasons you guys have described in the different kinds of environments that you've been working in. So, Dawn, like you, I was a science librarian. So, and, Jessica, like you, my undergraduate degree was in child and family studies. So, we share a lot of common things, and the curiosity is never stopping. It's always going. Yeah. So that's great.
We'll have to form a buddy system, guys. Go back and chase that PhD together.
Well, when we get done, we're going to talk about that. So, all right, let's move on to the third question that I have for you is, what advice would you give to students and starting professionals in KM? So we'll just start from the beginning, and Jessica, you're up first.
My first advice would be to get your dual degree in MBA in KM. Now that I know that that's a thing. But seriously, honestly, I think remembering that it's all about the people is the most important thing, right? Just forming those relationships, understanding that people have different ways of learning and different ways of understanding, and getting down on their level, right? A lot of KM is encouraging a knowledge sharing environment. And of course, that takes a lot of buy-in from higher ups, assuming that you're not at the top, and just building those relationships and helping the people around you understand the value behind knowledge. And that would be my most crucial advice.
Those are very good points. I really appreciate you saying those things. That's great. Okay. Let's see, Dawn, you're next.
Sure. I think just to add on to what Jessica's saying, you really want to build those relationships. Networking is everything. So many of the help so much of the help that I've gotten has been from people I know, whether it's just chasing down resources or different ways of working, just to actually getting, a job itself. I've been able to leverage those connections that I've built in the knowledge management community for those opportunities. And I think I would also say to remember that your career is a journey, and to plot it accordingly. So I always say I start with my bathroom mirror every morning, and on my bathroom mirror, I have in chalk marker, I have my goals written for the beginning of the year, and those hold me accountable. And then I also keep just little cards and notes from people who believe in me. I have one up there from Dr. Albright, but there's a lot of times in this job, because it is ever changing, that you do have a bit of imposter syndrome. And so it's so wonderful in the morning, if you're doubting yourself, to know that there's very smart people who believe that you should be where you are. And I think that's really helpful. And that translates across to just the career as a journey, because you will meet those people and those champions in your life. Hold on to those people and understand that, you're sort of hopscotching to get where you want to be. So when I took that internship, I knew it was a short-term thing, but I learned a lot, and I knew I'd be able to take something with it to my next job. When I went to NASA, I loved my job as a science librarian, but my goal was to get into knowledge management. So I was intentional about choosing a government agency, because I know they have a strong knowledge management component, and also because I knew that there was a Kent State alumni who was influential in knowledge management there, and was able to leverage those connections to then, hop to Deloitte, which was, I'd always wanted to work for a top big five consulting firm. And one of my professors at Kent State, gave me interview advice. So you never know. And it's amazing. And it's connecting those dots and leveraging your network and building those relationships. That's what I would really encourage you to do.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but I still keep up with a lot of my professors from when I got my master's degree, in the last century before dirt. But we have these mentors in our lives that we keep up with, and they do all of those things. And I think that's really right, because when you do this kind of work and you don't have an easy answer for the questions that come up, you have to be able to make decisions and to be able to know what resources you need to inform your decision. What knowledge do you need? And that can be really scary, especially if you're starting out. And so building confidence is something that comes with the job. And there's a little bit of risk taking in every day when you work in these kinds of jobs, but the rewards are just tremendous. And I'm so glad that you guys are noticing that and, sharing that with our students and soon to be professionals if they're not already. So that's great. Thanks. John, what do you want to say?
So I do feel the imposter syndrome daily, because people are way smarter than me. But I've learned to be patient, understand where they're coming from, understand why they're having their issue. And that helps me frame what I'm going to do to help them. Because even though my background is heavy military, it's heavy federal, working with the people, they may not have had that much time in the military and stuff. And so I like to bring in my farming, my ranching experience, because that's what drives me down. That's what keeps me grounded, is that when I talk to people, it's how are they doing? What's the problem? How can I help them? Or tell me about their pain points, and then I'll be like, and I've had that same problem somewhere else. And empathizing with them, because they are coming to you because they're at the roots end. So that's one of the biggest things I'm every time I go out.
That's a really good point. I once worked with a guy in Africa named Kingo Machambu, and he wrote a lot of research in the area of information behavior, which is understanding how people learn from and share information and what they can glean from it. It's very closely related to knowledge management. And he said, you don't just walk out to a farmer and say, well, what kinds of problems are you having? Or what are your information needs? And the farmer goes, I don't know that I have any information needs. So he says, what you need to do is to know a little bit about what they do and say, like, what are you planting here? How's that going? What kinds of things make it better? What kinds of things make it worse? And then once you get the information, then you can start to understand what their needs are. And so it's part of what in library science they call the reference interview, but interviewing people and getting to talk to them is exactly right. And having that patience that you're describing, John, and Jessica, some of the things that you said earlier about, getting down to their level and getting to understand them. And everybody learns in a different way, and we just have to be patient and wait to help them figure out what's the best way while we're trying to help solve their problems. So that's really good. Thank you so much for that. That's been just wonderful. We have stayed within our time limit. I can't believe. I just want to open it up and see if you guys have any other last minute thoughts or anything you want to share before we say goodbye.
I'm just jealous of I'm jealous of this course. I think it's so interesting. I hope everyone's finding it valuable. It's been fascinating to be part of it today, and kind of want to go back to school now.
I know. Me too. I'm learning a lot from the people that I've interviewed so far. It's been amazing. So, and we'll have them up on our YouTube channel so you guys can see them too, including yourselves. It'll be nice. Put it on your resume. Great, thanks. John, Jessica, anything else you want to?
One thing is to remember is that as you write, find an outlet that you can keep writing, because you'd be surprised at how insignificant a similar idea is to how it can actually form into a paper to a topic that you can discuss later on. such as I was sitting at the barber shop getting my haircut, and I thought about how I used to get my haircut by my mom, then she took my style and I grew it, and I realized, well, that's escalation of service for a company. That's how you actually get people to come in and get them moving these by the escalation of service and stuff. So I wrote a paper on that. But that's the things, is write down your little things, because those are the things that are going to come back to you. Not everybody grew up in near Wyoming when they introduced the wolves into Yellowstone. I just so happened to do it, and I wrote that nice little paper about how second and third order effects happen. And then you have the ligers that you skip in. I mean, I learned from Jessica when she was running the council and stuff, that it was nice. And then Don, of course, when we were in when we were helping out developing the courses you guys are in, everything can be a lesson. You just have to keep your mind open and understand that it may not be what you think that's what it was. Sometimes a hammer is a hammer, sometimes it's shoot.
Good advice. Very good. Excellent. Well, I can tell that you guys have shown us, so I hope everybody that's watching this sees that this network is so important, and that we all learn from each other, and that the thing to remember is you don't have to know everything. You're there to try to help figure out what pieces are missing, to try to get the answers collectively through the resources that you have available, to leverage those resources, to use your phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a perfect example of that. And I look forward to continuing our relationship with you guys and building those things. And our graduates, as the numbers are increasing, will hopefully reach out to you, and you'll get a chance to know them, and we'll build that network further. So I still keep up with people that I went to my master's program with. So, all right. I thank you all for your time and your sharing of your expertise. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been so nice to have all of you here. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So if you guys will hang on for a minute, I'll go ahead and end this.